have the Aprilia Tuareg 660. Now, as you'll hear in a moment when I show some of the riding footage, it's a good bike. The engine is surprisingly punchy for a 660. It sounds good. This engine is used in 3 of the Aprilia lineup, and this has the least torque of them all, not that you'd necessarily notice. The seat, it was comfortable. You could sit on there for hours. Low speed handling was very good. I do like it actually in this colour. It does look well from a distance. This single track road, it was fine with it, as you'd expect. Stood up position was good. That screen, I don't know if it's the height of me, but it just felt like it created a load of dirt again, not necessarily taking the wind over me. The screen was clear and of good quality, let's say this. The switchgear is awful. An old-fashioned fuel cap is awful. It feels like it's made out of a wheelie bin. I'm going to check the price. I shall be back. So, back again. I've just checked this price, and I've checked the T7's price and the F900 GS price. And they're all much of a muchness. And I hate to say this, but if you pick this over those two, you need your head reading. It's not that it's a bad bike. It's not that it's an ugly bike. But it feels like it's made for a budget, and there's better bikes in it at a similar price. I'm sure there's somebody in the comments who can tell me that they've ridden up Mount Kilimanjaro with this, doing a wheelie, and it didn't miss a beat, and they once knew someone had a BMW that engine fell out. But this isn't a 10.5 grand, well no, maybe it is a 10.5 grand bike, and the other two are very good and very cheap in comparison. The headlight is fine. Very interesting. To look at it, I don't hate it. But like I said, like I'll say, you'll hear again in a minute when I ride. Aprilia as a brand is a brand a bit like an Alfa Romeo. You've ignored other brands to get it because that's what you want. So if you're buying an Aprilia, you're ignoring the other brands anyway. But if you're not an Aprilia fan, per se, you're not ignoring the other bikes to get this. Crazy. Let's ride back and see how we get on. Well, hello. So thank you again to Luke at Fraser's of Gloucester. And I'm on a first for me. My first ever Aprilia. And this is the 660 Tuareg. Thing to say, which is the most noteworthy, is it's very, very comfortable. You could do a long time in the saddle on this bike without any cause for concern. The mirrors are fine. They look like BMW mirrors again. But the thing that I think is interesting, Aprilia is a brand. It's not a brand I've ever wanted to own. There's only one bike I think of when I think of Aprilia, and that's the RSV Millie. And that's a bike. And Aprilia as a brand makes me think of Alfa Romeo. That you want to sort of tip your cap to luxury, or tip your cap to a BMW, Mercedes, or that sort of thing. But you don't want to get one of them. So you're going to get one of these. But I think the problem with that is I should imagine you will lose your ass on this when you go to sell it. I mean, that's not to say it's a bad bike necessarily, but selling it's going to be a painful exercise. So, a 1 in 4 on a Tuareg. Let's have a go. I mean, it's nimble. It doesn't feel as tall as it is. There's enough in third gear, there's enough get up and go. Low speed handling is nice, it's very, very, very well balanced. And here we go. Nice. Stood up is oh, that's nice. Stood up is lovely. What is good, actually, it's taking a lot of the thought out of riding up this. It's making the ride easy. So let's get back to the bike. It handles well, slow speed handling is lovely, gearbox is fine, clutch is fine, low down pull is fine for a bike of this ilk and with only 660 cubic centimeters. It is not a bad vehicle. Let's do a UE. That's fine. Nice punch. Not a bad sound, to be fair. I think reality is you're going to take your bike on a road like, if you've got this bike, you're coming on a road like this. Alright, he's coming anyway. Awesome. Nice. I mean, it's going to cope quite well with most you're going to throw at it. In terms of settings, this has been set up for its most aggressive, with everything dialed back in terms of traction control and ABS and all that stuff. I wouldn't want to ride it with any more electrics doing their business. I feel it would be quite boring. Anyway, so back from the ride on the Aprilia Tuareg 660, and my overriding emotion is it's not a bad bike, but I put it into a special category of motorbike. And I'll give you this analogy. £3.50 for a Big Mac is phenomenal value. It can't be beaten. But if you had to pay 15 quid for a Big Mac, you'd go, this is not worth it. It's terrible, in fact. Now, I've just rechecked the price. I did say it was like 10.5, I think, for that bike, but according to the Aprilia website, it's now 9.6. But still, that's too much. It's too much for that bike, because you're not buying other better bikes to get it. I didn't hate it, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough compared to the competition. If it was 7 grand, it would be phenomenal value. But even at 9.5, it's too much money for that bike when you could get a T7 or a F900 GS. That will do it better. And as I said in the riding, people who want Aprilia, and I put them in the same category for people that buy Alfa Romeos. They're ignoring other things because they don't want the other things, they want that. And that's who will buy that bike. I don't think anybody in their right mind is trading in their T7 or their 900 GS or their Desert X for that bike. Sorry if you've got one. Sorry if you love it. But there's better bikes out there for that money. And with that, time to have a look at the Ross Rides Review scoreboard. See where it lands. Cheers. So the Ross Rides scoreboard for the Aprilia Tuareg 660 on the 2024 plate. So for the weekend score, for styling, I give it a 5. It's perfectly fine. It's not going to win any beauty awards, but it's not going to age terribly. Acceleration, it's not the quickest. It's around 4 seconds to 60, so a 5. Handling, it's okay. The front end is set up very spongy, so you put on the brakes and it nosedives. For torque, not the world's torquiest bike, so it gets a 3, which I think is a bit of a shame really, because the 2 other configurations this engine's used in by Aprilia, they have more torque, so I reckon that bike would have benefited from that. And a 5 for cool. Again, it's perfectly fine. It's not an ugly bike, and it's of the moment, I suppose. Which gives it a total weekend score of 22. For daily features, I give it a 6. It's got most things that you need. The screen's quite nice, so a 6 is fair. Comfort, it is ridiculously comfortable, so an 8 is a fair score. Miles per gallon is a 6, which I think it's around 60 plus miles per gallon, which is very, very good. Practicality is a 6. Yes, you can get extra luggage for it, but I don't imagine it'd be a nice place to be for the passenger. And for cost, it's a 6. It's now been reduced down to just over 9.5 from 10 and a bit, which bumped its score up a little bit, which gives it a total daily score of 32. And those scores combined puts it at 55. So, as I thought, that is 4 points down on the BMW F900 GS and 8 points down from the Desert X. I haven't done a Tenere, as I've mentioned, so it'd be interesting to see where that comes out. But for the bikes in its class so far, it is the weak link. But I'm sure Aprilionians love it and they'll buy it anyway. Cheers.